It's Wednesday, October 26, 2022. Markets pretty flat today, although the NASDAQ got beat up pretty good, down 228. Dow Jones up around 2 points. And as I watch these markets today, tech getting destroyed, but things should be much worse with the news and the data we keep getting. There are so many mega threats out there, and yet the markets are not really reflecting the dangers because they're still being manipulated. I was watching a very good interview last night on Bloomberg, and they had Nouriel Roubini on. Now, this is a guy that predicted the 2008 crash, one of the people. He is a college economic professor, smart guy. I don't agree with everything he says, but I do agree with a lot of what he says. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase through this article. I made some notes on it. He says that we are here again, like we were in 2008, but it's different. We have additional economic, monetary, and fiscal risk, geopolitical risk, health risk, environmental risk, AI risk. Think about that. AI risk, what is that? That is going to be the destruction of millions of jobs being replaced with AI, technology, robots. We have political risk. And on top of that, one of the biggest risks of them all is debt. Very good interview. It was on, I watched it on YouTube last night. He talked about zombie institutions. They will likely go bankrupt as the Fed raises rates. He warned of stagflation coming. And when we talk about zombie institutions, we're not just talking about these zombie companies on Wall Street, but zombie countries. 40 countries right now are on the verge of a debt crisis. We've never seen anything like this. Now remember, there's over $300 trillion of global debt. Advanced economies and emerging markets are at risk, especially with the stronger dollar. It's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of countries, especially emerging markets. All central banks, he says, are playing tough. There is so much debt. If they play tough, they will crash the economy, he says. We have a serious threat today that we did not have before, that did not exist before. We will be lucky if we don't repeat the 1970s. We could repeat the 1930s. Think about that. I think we're at a time now where it's the 1930s, the 1970s, the early 2000s, 2008, all wrapped up in one. He says the dollar will eventually fall sharply, that we are weaponizing, the U.S. is weaponizing the dollar as I speak, and that at some point the Fed will blink. When the Fed blinks, this is when the dollar is going to free fall. There are three things he says you should be in right now. Short-term treasuries, TIPS, which are Treasury inflation protected securities, and gold and precious metals, gold and silver. He said gold is going to shoot up when the Fed blinks. And I truly do believe that there is no doubt it will. When the Fed blinks is the question. They're not going to blink this year. Will they blink in 2023? It's very possible. It's another reason why I hold gold, why I continue to make the sacrifices, cutting things out of my life so I have an extra couple dollars to buy a little bit of gold every month, a little bit of silver every month. You got to make sacrifices right now, ladies and gentlemen. Things are happening at an expedited rate right now. So I thought there were some good points there. Now, look, I'm not sure about TIPS. I'm not sure about short-term treasuries, but I am sure about gold. Gold is never going to go to zero. Gold is going to perform very, very well when and if the Fed does blink. We don't know right now. They are talking extremely tough. I think the Fed is going to lose any faith. It will destroy its reputation. Jerome Powell will go down in the history books as the man who pivoted and collapsed the U.S. dollar if he pivots, if he blinks. So I don't know. Will they do it in 2023? There's so much debt. They're going to destroy the economy. At some point, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But if they do, thank God you're holding some gold and some silver because you're going to need it. I was also watching another show a couple nights ago, Stansberry Research, great show. They had Hugh Hendry on. He's a partner in a large hedge fund, and he made an incredible statement, and he said a few things that I thought were very, very important. He says, you're going to get screwed. And he says, you don't have to be invested in these markets right now. Take a break. Investing presently is like licking honey from the razor's edge. And I thought that that was a great, spot-on statement. Maybe it is time to take a break. Is this a sucker's rally, or do you believe this is the time to buy the dip? Do you think that this is the dip? Do you think the markets are going to go back to record highs? Do you think that they're going to continue to surge? Slowed down quite a bit today. Tech absolutely getting pummeled, and there is not much good news. Forward earnings also, I believe, were down. There's just not a lot of good news out there in regards to the economy. We have a market and an economy that are completely detached from one another at this point. CNBC, gold scales 2-week peak as dollar yields slip on Fed relief hope. We've watched this rally the past week in the markets. And what is it based on? It is based on hope that the Fed is going to pivot. I no doubt believe we're going to see a 75 basis point rate hike November 2nd. And I believe we'll probably see a 50 basis point rate hike in December. We're going to see the 30-year fixed rate on a mortgage probably around 8% by the end of the year. And I do believe we're going to see double-digit rates on a 30-year in 2023. This is going to absolutely implode the housing market. The hedge today, Thanksgiving dinner will cost a lot more this year. The cost in food is hurting so many people. People are struggling. We see so much food insecurity out there. We see people at the food shelters, long lines. The shelters are in need of help. They're not getting the donations. We have a food crisis taking place with our farmers. It's harder to get food. There's just not as much food out there, and there's just not as many people now that can donate money to the food shelters so that they can feed people who need it. And there's a whole different type of person now going to the food shelters, people that have jobs, people who have cars, people who have homes, who now just cannot afford enough food to feed their families, and now they are being added to the line at these food shelters. But people are going to struggle this year in order to celebrate a Thanksgiving meal. 1 in 4 people are just not going to celebrate it because they need the money to pay bills, to pay the utility bill, to make the car payment, to pay the credit card payment. They're not going to be able to celebrate Thanksgiving here in America, and that is a sad time in our history where people just cannot celebrate one of the most important days in America. The USDA data shows that an 8 to 16 pound turkey cost $1.99 a pound last week, up from $1.15 last year. That's almost a 75% increase from a year ago. Now, maybe this doesn't affect you. It's going to affect a lot of people, millions of people. Boneless ham has increased 13.6% in September from a year ago. White potatoes have spiked 27.2%. Bread is up 10.7%. A gallon of milk has surged 16.6%. Butter up nearly 27%. Coffee up nearly 16%. I mean, think about, we are now living in a time where turkey, butter, coffee, eggs, beef, it's now a luxury. It's now a luxury for a lot of people, and a lot of people are having to cut this out of their diets. And what's sad is when you start cutting out the meat, the poultry, the chicken, the turkey, the vegetables, this is not good for people with physically, for their diets, for their nutrition. People need to get a calorie intake. They need to be eating healthy. And what are you gonna supplement this with? Hot dogs, bologna, some type of cheaper food, cheaper quality. And this is going to take a toll on people physically. And down the road, we're going to see more medical issues, more cancers, more diabetes, more disease, because people aren't getting the proper nutrition because they can't afford good food. They can't afford good nutrition. So they're going to have to supplement with, maybe a can of raviolis, processed food. Just not good. And and I feel so bad for people with kids, and kids are going to have to suffer here too. Mortgage activity hovers at slowest pace since 1997. This on Fox Business. Mortgage apps declined 1.7% from the prior week. 30-year fixed rate sitting at 7.16%. Purchase applications are now down over 40% from a year ago. Look out. Big trouble in the housing market. The cracks continue to get bigger. 2023, big trouble. New home sales tumble in September as mortgage rates march higher. New home sales are now down 17.6% from a year ago. Think about that number. That is a big, big number. September sales tumbled 10.9% month over month. Big, big number. I want to close with this last article, and let me know what you think about this. This comes from the Daily Mail. Freeloaders, LA's homeless, infuriate locals by boasting about hooking up washing machines to street power lines and setting up huge 10-man tents on sidewalks complete with flower beds. This is our new world, ladies and gentlemen, where people just steal water and power from the city, from businesses. They just walk up, plug an extension cord in, plug in their laundry machines, plug in their televisions. They're plugging into the public fire hydrants so they can wash their cars on public streets. I've never seen anything like this. They just keep taking it to the next level. But again, siphoning water from public fire hydrants so they can wash their cars. Yes, their cars. So we have people in LA, have cars, living in tents, nice big tents, washing machines, televisions, and washing their cars. This is the new world we live in now. I could not believe this when I was watching video of this and looking at pictures of this, just plugging into somebody's business. In fact, they parked a huge tent right in the entrance of a business, so you couldn't even drive into this business because there's a giant tent there. And they just get away with this. Look, homelessness is a huge problem, and it is about to get much, much bigger as people are losing everything. Their savings, their cars, their homes, their jobs, their futures. This is going to be a catastrophic problem here in America, as it's not just here in LA, it's happening all over the country, but we have a huge problem here, right here in Riverside County, minutes from where I'm at. More and more people are living in dilapidated RVs in the middle of the desert. They're living in tents. They're living in plywood boxes right off of Interstate 10. It's happening everywhere. And it's a growing problem, and it's about to accelerate as the average person is going to be faced with homelessness, and their families are going to be faced with homelessness. There is not really any good news to report yet again today. It does not look good out there. There are going to be people starving, vets, people who just are not going to be able to have Thanksgiving this year. One thing I can say is if you're blessed and you're able to celebrate with a nice meal, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, or Thanksgiving, Christmas, or any day of the week, if you can sit down and have a nice meal, remember that there are people out there that cannot sit down at a dinner table and have a nice meal. There are people who are food insecure. There are people who are broke. There are people that maybe are eating one meal a day. There are people that might be eating one meal every other day. And there are people that just will not eat today, here in America and throughout the world, throughout the globe. And we are so blessed. You're blessed if you can sit down and eat today. You have a roof over your head, whether that's sleeping in the garage, at your parents' house, in the basement, or at your 8,000 square foot estate. You are blessed. Because there are people sleeping on sidewalks, sleeping in tents, sleeping in shacks, sleeping in dilapidated RVs, sleeping in their cars, who are not eating. And my heart goes out to all those people. Be careful. how you present yourself. There are people still on social media that want to show us their steak dinner at Mastro's, that want to show us their $30 cocktail at Mastro's, want to show us at the, their weekend at the resort, having appetizers, and the big cocktails at the pool and what have you. And I think that's very narcissistic, especially today when so many people are suffering. And you may be blessed. You might be having that wonderful dinner, that wonderful Thanksgiving dinner. But remember, be careful, really how you present yourself today. Do it with class, because there's a lot of people out there that cannot do what you do, who are struggling, who cannot even, have a McDonald's meal today because they're broke and struggling. So let's not, so many people want to brag. They're braggadocious. They're narcissistic. Look at me. Look at me. Look what I'm eating. Look at my cocktails. Look at my car. Look at how much money I make. Look at my house. Look at my zip code. And yet they don't realize the people that are out there suffering. And so this is not the time to be rubbing that in people's noses. Don't be a narcissistic loser, because there are really people out there hurting, families that are hurting. And so have a little bit of class. That's my opinion. But I see so much of this on social media, and it makes me sick that there are people that completely bragging about what they have, their lifestyle, and they're not contributing anything back. Many of them also doing this on a credit card, getting deeper into debt. But they're not bragging about how they're helping people, how they're contributing to society. Just look at me, look at my car, look what I'm eating. It's disgusting. And I believe in karma. And this is not the time to be shoving it in people's faces. Maybe this is the time to go out and maybe help some people eat, maybe pass out some canned food, maybe give somebody a turkey this Thanksgiving, maybe go help out at one of these food banks. If you know somebody that needs some help, maybe it's a family, maybe it's a relative, maybe you help make sure they have a good Thanksgiving, make sure that they're eating. But again, there's so many people out there in the streets, the animals, the people struggling. This is not the time to be shoving it in people's faces. This is the time to take action and maybe help them out over the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Maybe you help them out January or February. It's always a good time to give back. And I know I'm ranting here, but I believe that people who give, God looks at that and is going to bless you back 10 times. And I don't know about you, but I always get a good feeling helping people out, not just donating money, but actually going out there hands-on and giving some people some food, some toothbrushes, socks, some soap, just helping out. It makes me feel good that I can contribute a little bit. And I feel that if you do the same, you're going to be blessed 10 times over. If you have the means and ability to do it. You might be struggling and you can't do it. That's okay. But for the people that can, stop wasting your time on social media showing everybody what you're eating, and take the time and start maybe help feed some of those people. I'm going to leave it there today. God bless all of you. Please give this video a thumbs up. Share it with everyone you know, you don't know. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that bell notification down below so that you are alerted with the newest videos. And as always, I look very, very forward to speaking with all of you very, very soon. Continue all your preparations, ladies and gentlemen. This thing is getting worse by the day. The outlook is very, very negative. Every honest economist, every honest person now is telling you and I that big trouble is ahead. Of course, the economists and the analysts on the television, 99% of them are going to tell you this is the great time to buy. Go buy a house, go buy a car, go buy stocks. You need to get in. Cautious, be very, very cautious who you're listening to, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very cautious, because I don't know about you, I have a very, very bad feeling that in the next few weeks we're going to see a very, very big turnaround here, and it's not going to be pretty. Stay safe.